So I ended up working really late today, and by the time I was leaving work, I realized that I haven't drank water in I don't know how long that whole day, and my mouth was so dehydrated. And I rushed to the water fountain and turned it on, drank some water, and as I drank and felt the water coming down inside my body, I just had this thought, and I was thinking about it the whole drive home, about how simple yet perfect water is. I'm Visualante, and you're about to experience the Visualante effect. So first of all, water makes up about 70% to 75% of the whole entire Earth. And you know, when scientists are looking for life in outside of Earth, you know, in outside of our solar system, or in our solar system even, they try to look for water on other planets. Without water, as far as we know, there's no such thing as life. There's no ability for life to exist, at least as far as we know scientifically. Not only that, but most of organisms, any living thing, they're made mostly of water. Their entire body is made mostly of water, or around the same percentage actually. And in cells, if you go down to the basic life form, which is cells that make up all organisms, these are made out of at least 70% to 95% of water. And this is what makes us run. This is what makes us go and live. Water has this cool character that makes it stand out in an extremely unique way to other liquids and other substances out there, that makes it so vital for life. It has what's called hydrogen bonding. So I'm not going to bore you guys with that, but basically just to explain it, if you can think of water as broken down into a whole bunch of little waters, microscopic water molecules, or little microscopic water people, and what hydrogen bonding means is that these little waters, they're able to attach to each other and hold each other's hands. They work as a team. So they're holding each other's hands, so it's very difficult to break them apart. And that's why actually when you fall, if you ever do a belly flop in a pool, that's why it hurts. Because when you jump down, initially what happens is you don't break the surface of the water because of that hydrogen bonding, because of these little water molecules holding each other, you know, holding hands side by side. That's why it initially hurts. But it's not only good for hurting people, but it's good for helping people and helping the environment. For instance, trees and plants. You know, we can't live without trees and plants because trees and plants provide oxygen because we provide them with carbon dioxide. So they convert that carbon dioxide to oxygen. And trees can't live without water. And how do they get the water? The water goes in and it goes into their roots and it travels up the tree. Now someone might be asking, how the heck is water going to travel up a tree that's more than 100 meters tall? That's a quarter the size and height of the Empire State Building. A quarter of that size. Can you imagine water just climbing up? The reason it could do that is because of that hydrogen bonding. It allows it to bond specifically to the walls. So when it's pulled and gravity pushes against it, the water doesn't break apart easily. If it was to break apart, then it would never make it up there. Another way water helps us is through cooling the entire environment and cooling every single organism. Let me explain how. When you go to the beach, have you ever felt like it's like there's a cool breeze, you know, it feels nice? The reason being is that water can withstand or is resistant to temperature change 10 times more than iron. Meaning no matter how much heat you put into water, it's not going to get hot very fast as much as iron will get hot. Iron will get hot immediately, and that's why we use it for the stove and whatnot. But what that does is it allows for water, again, because of this hydrogen bonding, to store the heat from the sun, absorb it, and then keep it until the winter where it releases that heat into the atmosphere, stabilizing the atmosphere. Not only that, but that aspect of water is what keeps any animal or living thing alive in the oceans. Because certain animals can't live in certain temperatures. And the only reason that they're able to live in those temperatures is because water is resistant to change in temperature. So when the heat goes in, it doesn't just change the whole heat of the water. It keeps the ocean, it allows for the ocean to stay stabilized in one temperature because the heat gets dispersed and water doesn't get affected too much. Another thing, the fact that we are made of water and that water has that aspect to it, it allows us to be adaptive to different temperatures in the cold. That's why we can go in the cold when it snows and when it's hot and we're still surviving because of that aspect. Without it, we would not be alive. We would be dead. And our organs would overheat. The only reason we have our organs being kept at the perfect homeostasis temperatures is because of that quality of water. Another thing that water does is that it evaporates, right? And you might think, well, what does evaporating do? Evaporating cools whatever it's evaporating from. So for instance, leaves, when they have water on top of them, instead of the sun burning the leaf, the sun burns the water and it evaporates it, causing a coolness to happen for the leaf. Similarly, for humans, when you work out and you exercise, what happens? Your body's overheating. So, and you know, it's not overheating technically, but it starts to heat up. So one way your body cools itself is by making you sweat. And what is sweat? Sweat is water. And then what happens? That sweat evaporates, and then it cools your skin and therefore stabilizes your temperature. And the same thing when you have a fever, it does the same thing. So many other cool qualities of water you might not even thought about. Water is one of the only substances on Earth that has its solid form lighter than its liquid form. Ice. Ice is lighter than water. Ice is lighter than liquid water. Reason being, again, goes back to that whole hydrogen bonding where, you know, the hands are holding each other, the water molecules are holding each other. They hold each other in such a way that it makes it lighter, to the point where you have glaciers floating on liquid oceans. Why is that? You know, what is the significance of that? What if ice was to sink? If ice was to sink, there would be no life on Earth. It would freeze up the bottom of the ocean and it would kill everything that's under there. And ironically, what ice does is that it keeps the water under it insulated, and it keeps heat inside that water because it blocks any of the cold air coming from the top layers. So again, stabilizing for the environment and for us to have marine life and for us to drink our, you know, iced coffee. Also, if you're into exercising and working out, water is the best thing you can drink, because water helps break down all of the things that you eat into smaller and smaller pieces inside your body, on a molecular level, that is. And it allows it to be used as energy instead of just getting stored. If you don't have enough water, then your body's not going to be getting enough energy, believe it or not. You know, the sugar that you intake, it gets broken down into smaller pieces on a molecular level, and that turns into energy that you can utilize. But if it doesn't turn into energy, then what it does is it turns into fat that gets stored. So people end up getting bigger and getting fatter. So again, water helps you in your exercise. Water also acts like a little mini army in your body that you don't even realize, because water molecules, they're like a gang. You know, they gang up together, and what they do is they gang up together by helping transport everything that's in your body. All the nutrients and minerals that you have in your body, they get transported through water, because water grabs them and carries them. And it also flushes out any toxins that you have in your body because it attaches to them. It's such a perfect solvent that it only dissolves what you need it to dissolve. For instance, when you put it in a cup, it doesn't dissolve the cup, but it dissolves anything you put in that cup. It dissolves the sugar that you put in that cup, the salt that you put in that cup. And likewise, it does the same thing to your body. And you don't realize on a molecular level how much you need that to happen, how much it flushes out the extra salt that you have. Also, water controls the pH levels in your body, because water is what creates the pH in the first place, because it's what attacks and takes away from different acids and different bases in your body. And your body, in order for it to function, it has so many different proteins, it has so many different enzymes. And the only way these enzymes are activated or they function sometimes is by a certain pH level. It has to be, for instance, in your stomach, it needs to be acidic for certain enzymes to work. And those enzymes only work in those acidic environments, and that's made possible by water. Certain enzymes, they're not able to function at all, they don't start at all until its environment reaches a specific pH level or a specific temperature. And again, water helps create all of that for you to function without you even realizing it. Water acts as a suppressant of shock waves for earthquakes. So we don't feel earthquakes as much. And believe it or not, if earthquakes were to happen underwater, which they do, and there was no water, we would feel them so much more. But because of the fact that there's water, water absorbs those shock waves and protects us from greater harm from the earthquakes. And likewise, it protects our organs that are inside our bodies, and all the animals, their organs that are inside their bodies, from different shock waves, like when you're running, when you're moving, when you're jumping, all that stuff. Water helps protect it, or if you get bumped, it helps protect it from different shock waves, and it absorbs energy in that sense. And another cool thing about water I thought I'd mention is that water can cut steel if you put the right pressure on it. It's so smooth and easy. You can drink it, and at the same time you can cut steel with it. I mean, can you imagine that? You can cut wood with it, plastic, stone, and much more, as long as you have the right pressure. And forget all that other stuff. Water, because like I said, it's like your little army that it just attaches to things. It's the perfect thing to clean with. And that's why we bathe with water. You know, we clean our dishes with water because it attaches to little molecules inside the dirt, and it takes it out and it helps clean it, and it helps it detach from whatever it's attached to, whether it's your body or the kitchen sink, or the floor, whatever it is. It's the perfect cleaner. But the best thing I think about water is that it tastes perfect.
قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم